Graham, thank you so much for joining me today for another episode of Making Risk Flow. Obviously, this is a very, very special episode and very exciting one. So thank you for joining.
My pleasure, Juan. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Great to be to working together now, and I'm excited to be on the podcast with you.
So let's start with, for those that don't know you, let's start with an overview of your role and a bit of your background.
Of course, happy to. Let's see. So I am the president of Applied Systems, and for all your listeners, as you know, Cytora is now part of Team Applied. A little about me: I've been with Applied for 5 years. I've worn a couple different hats, but the hat I wear today as president is sort of twofold. One, I oversee what we call our strategic growth businesses. So think we've got several different divisions, business units that serve different segments of the market, so insurers versus agencies, or core P&C agencies versus employee benefits agencies. So I oversee what we call our strategic growth divisions, and on top of that, I spend a lot of time leading the company on strategy overall. And again, been with the company for 5 years. Prior to that, a little bit of a non-traditional path to join Applied. I'm still relatively new to insurance. 5 years in, I actually worked for another software company here in Chicago in a commercial leadership role. I spent about 8 years working in private equity. So my job was, big private equity firm called Bain Capital would buy a company, and they would joke, day one, CEO is excited, they've closed. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. CEO, this is Graham. He's going to be your new best friend. He's going to work with you the next 3, 4, 5 years and help you make the company more successful, more valuable. And so I did that, and it was a lot of fun, mostly in software businesses, but some broader businesses as well. And I think, like you, Juan, I am a reformed management consultant. Spent a bunch of time at Accenture, at McKinsey early on in my career, where I joke I learned a ton, but it's good to move over to the operating side over time.
I like the term of a reformed management consultant. And I think the only one thing that you've missed in the intro was that you are a professional karaoke singer.
You're too kind, Juan. I am a big believer that every individual needs at least one karaoke song that they will go to under pressure, when they're forced to. It's kind of like teaching your kids to swim. It's a life skill that you just have to have. And so, as you unfortunately experienced, my song's La Bamba. And I guess for your listeners, I sang that with you and others in Spain, of all places, which I have to admit, I found a little terrifying in that I think I know, you can judge, I think I know the words to La Bamba pretty well. I have no idea what they all mean, but I think I sing them okay. Okay, what do you think, Juan?
I'm going to say you did a great job. And all of us Spaniards there, we thought you actually spoke Spanish because you did a really good job. Okay, so you mentioned Applied Systems, obviously very large tech company, but it would be fantastic if you gave us an overview of history of Applied. It's obviously has quite a long history, and what does it do? What's the product suite?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about actually Applied's heritage, how the company was founded. I think it's a really interesting story. I hope you all do as well. You've heard me tell it before, Juan, but so Applied's actually a 41-year-old software company. And the story sounds very similar to how many world-class software companies were created. It was just a little bit of a unique place. We weren't founded in Silicon Valley. We were founded in a small town called Mokina, Illinois. And as I understand the story, our founder, a gentleman by the name of Bob Eustace, who Bob unfortunately passed away this year, but Bob Eustace, our founder, he was a sales rep selling IBM boxes, those big, huge, clunky boxes that you could buy 41 years ago. And like almost any piece of computer hardware, the difference between the IBM box that Bob was selling or the IBM box that some other distributor or sales rep down the street were selling was really nothing. And so what did Bob do? Well, Bob started selling that box to insurance agencies in the south side of Chicago because, like many people in insurance, he, I think, had some family members or friends who worked in the insurance industry. And he wrote a little piece of software. He wrote a little piece of software that would help insurance agencies keep track of their customers, some basic policy information. And he pretty quickly realized the reason that people were buying his IBM box, not somebody else's, was for the software that was helping those insurance agencies actually use the computer, run their business. And so he said, hey, I'm going to go start Applied Systems. I'm going to go write software to make the insurance industry better. And so the next thing you know, he was running the business out of his house. As I understand it, it started in the family room, and then it took up the second floor. Eventually, they're working, spreading out into the pool and the pool house, and so on and so forth. And so the company just took off from there, like one of these Silicon Valley startups that started in a garage. So you fast forward 41 years, the company's obviously, it's very different now. We're with Cytora now, almost 3,100 employees in a dozen different countries globally. We are the leader on the agency side of the market. So our heritage is selling agency management systems, which are the core system that a large insurance broker, or I guess even a small insurance broker, uses to run their business every day. We're very fortunate today. We have the two most successful agency management systems or broker management systems in the world. Applied Epic is the leading broker management system for, think, medium-sized agencies all the way up to the largest, most sophisticated, public brokerages globally. And then we have a platform called EasyLinks, that's sort of the other end of the market, much smaller agencies, largest management system in that piece of the market. And so, two amazing broker management systems that give us a really unique relationship of powering how agencies, brokers perform their business day in and day out. On top of that, in North America, we have a business called Ivans. Ivans is a business that serves carriers. And the simplest way I can describe Ivans is, their mission is to help agencies and carriers collaborate more effectively. And so if you think of things like a policy is actually bound in a carrier system, well, that information needs to get to the broker management system. Ivans does that, right? It's got connectivity between the two platforms. You think about things like, small commercial quoting, personal line quoting. Ivans helps with those types of things, a bunch of other products. But it's a really unique business today in that we have these two amazing broker management systems, and something like 60% of every insurance agency in North America is running on one of those two platforms. Then you have Ivans and other carrier products that help drive connectivity and collaboration between carriers. It's a really unique set of assets, and we think Cytora is going to make that, dramatically more powerful. So that's the business today, Juan.
And I think one of the things you've mentioned in the past, which really brought this to life, is for many of those agencies and brokers, like either Epic or EasyLinks, is the platform where they do everything on a day-to-day basis, right?
That's right. It's remarkable. The joke I use with the friends who don't work in insurance is like, this is like a finance person using Excel, right? It's like you have to have it. And so if you are an account manager, a CSR at an agency or a brokerage, you're using Epic or EasyLinks day in and day out to keep track of all of your policies, to manage your renewals, to do, mission critical pieces of your job. Hey, I got to help provide a certificate of insurance, to an end customer so they can pass it along to someone else. Epic is powering all of those things. Epic and EasyLinks. Think Epic has 170,000 people that are waking up every single day, logging into Epic and using it for some of those core functions. On top of that, it not only supports kind of those core insurance workflows around new business, around renewals, around servicing, it's also your ERP, your financial management platform, right? So all of the producer commissions and revenue calculations and all that fun, vital stuff to actually run your business financially, Epic and EasyLinks do that as well. So I think it's a really exciting platform in that we're doing so much for these different agencies. I'd also say it's something that we don't take lightly, right? Our agencies can't operate if Epic and EasyLinks aren't powering their most important workflows exceptionally well. And so there's sort of this never-ending aspiration for, we call the digital round trip of insurance, like the most important workflows that an agency has to perform, they really need to be exceptional. And when they're not, that's a problem. That's something that we really have to invest in and improve and make sure that we're delighting and powering the business of insurance through those management systems and other technologies over time.
Okay, you've mentioned there the digital round trip of insurance. Like, tell me a bit more. What do you mean by that?
It's a great question. And maybe I'll use that to talk a little bit about how we think about our strategy overall, if that works. I'll try to tie together agency workflows with some of that carrier connectivity and collaboration I alluded to. And there's a third dimension to our strategy that I think is really important. So maybe to start off, when I think about the digital round trip of insurance, I think about what are the workflows that an agency has to perform every single day. Well, it starts with things like sales and marketing. So how do I prospect? How do I execute a renewal? Those sorts of things. How do I actually, send content, so on and so forth. There's a sales and marketing workflow. There's a submission and underwriting workflow, actually gathering all the information from insureds and sending that risk information over to a carrier. There's policy management and data capture. So great, the policy was actually bound with a given carrier. I need to record it. I need to have, all that there for reference keeping for my customers. There's that financial management workflow. Again, AR, AP, all the producer commissions and calculations, the stuff that's really important to insurance brokers. And then again, the million services use cases that come up every single day. Well, our management systems need to be a platform that facilitates all of that, right? If you're a small agency, Epic or EasyLinks should literally perform every single one of those functions for you. If you are a large, public company brokerage, it's still going to facilitate all of those different workflows. Some of them are going to be completely native in an Epic or EasyLinks. Others are going to be, there's a little bit that's in Epic and EasyLinks. Others that integrate maybe with your Salesforce or your dynamic system. But think in either situation, we're trying to power all of those most important workflows that an agency performs every single day. So that's one pillar of our strategy. The second pillar of our strategy is everything I just described requires an agent or a broker working really well with their carrier or MGA or wholesale partners, right? So you think about submissions just as an example. It doesn't work. You're not going to create an exceptional experience unless you can help carriers, agencies exchange information, work together in a collaborative, seamless way. So as we look at every single one of those workflows, we have Ivans, we have other carrier products, now Cytora in the family, that our mission is to drive carrier collaboration and connectivity across every single one of those core workflows. Like a very simple mental model. We don't want to be a core system for carriers. We don't want to be a policy admin system, but everything that sits in between how a carrier does business, how an agency does business, let's drive all of the friction out of that. So that's what our carrier products do. And then on top of that, the third pillar of our strategy is AI. As you know well from Cytora, AI needs to power every single one of the workflows that I just described. It's not a separate element in of itself. It's a way to make those core agency workflows much more delightful than they ever could have been in the past. It's a way to drive that carrier collaboration and connectivity with their most important distribution partners, again, in an efficient and an intelligent way. And so that's the third pillar of our strategies. How do you take AI and infuse it in everything else I just described?
I think that was the, for the audience who doesn't know about the history of how we came together. I mean, we really had our first conversations just 3-4 months ago, and I think like a perfect alignment of vision. And I think the reason I'm mentioning this is when you're talking about removing the friction of the collaboration within agencies, but between agencies and carriers, the first thing that came to mind is, okay, well, that is even the title of this episode is Making Risk Flow, right? It's how does data flow across the value chain, all the way from the client through the agencies, or the retail wholesalers, the insurers, and how do you remove that friction? So how do you enable the value-added parts of the collaboration and remove the cumbersome, like, wasted activities?
I totally agree. And I think I remember vividly the first time that, you, Richard, and I couple of my colleagues, we all hopped on a Zoom together right down the hall from where I'm sitting today. And I remember vividly talking you through our elevator pitch and what Applied does and our vision. And I remember seeing Richard jump in so quickly, and I didn't know how to read it actually. I was like, all right, does he think what I just said is stupid and he's jumping in quickly because he's going to pivot? And then you just went on and you could hear the passion. And I think we were both, really delighted that we were so on the same page for how insurance workflows can operate fundamentally differently than they have in the past. If we take this mindset, if we apply AI in the right way, balance great technology with people that really understand the business of insurance, it's just a tremendously exciting opportunity.
Yeah, great. And I think it's also both at the macro level of the kind of obviously the vision of both companies are very aligned, but it was also quite interesting at the micro level how we were dealing with similar pain points in different parts of the value chain, right? So when we talk to our carrier clients, they would often complain about how receiving all these documents in the submissions or claims, and they have to understand all that information and capture that and rekey it. Right. And then when we were talking to you guys and you were saying, well, the agents in the brokers complain about the same thing, right? They've got to create a submission, they need to input thousands of data points. And
right.
Almost then you zoom out and think, okay, well, what's actually happening in the industry is there's a broker who really dislikes having to rekey thousands of data points into a system.
Right.
That system is producing documents and emails that then a carrier has to decipher again, and they complain about that the major pain point and source of inefficiencies, right? It's okay, I think when you talk about the underwriting collaboration, it's about how do you think about the whole process end to end, how data should flow in a way that we make the lives of those agents and underwriters better and also drive impact to the client.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's an opportunity to delight everyone in this. And again, I think you have to think about how you bring those two parties together, right? If they're each in a vacuum, the two parties being in agencies or brokers and insurers, each in a vacuum are trying to solve the problem, but actually they have to work together. They have to be brought together. And that's tricky, right? Because when you do that, you've got different insurers that want different information, right? And they don't want to be pulled down to a least common denominator of how they want to underwrite risk or evaluate a claim or things like that. Similarly, agencies want to just get them what they need. They want to do it as quickly as possible. And so how do you step back, think about all the different activities that are being performed in there, even from how agencies gather information from insureds, just go end to end on the process and think about how do you reimagine this? How do you use AI in new ways to, again, embrace the information they're gathering, simplify it, harmonize it, help people make decisions faster. Again, it's a really exciting challenge, and I think it's something in some respects the industry. You've been in insurance for longer than I have. It's something the industry's been talking about in concept for decades, but I think we're finally at the point that through what Cytora has built, through the assets that Applied has, through what we're going to go do together, we can actually start to bring that vision to life in a really, really powerful way.
And I think on that, you've mentioned the AI there, and then you mentioned that the third pillar of your strategy is about leveraging AI to drive value in the value chain. And quite often you refer to the impact of AI as almost maximizing the hero work. Can you talk about that mental framework, which I think is quite interesting?
I think this idea of the hero work is actually, I'm going to describe it as twofold. The hero work in my mind is what's the most valuable thing a individual is doing at work each day. And so let's say I'm a CSR, for example, right? I'm an account manager, just as an illustration. Hey, the most valuable thing I can do is I can go get 3, 4, 5, however many number, really high quality renewal, opportunities, bid quotes from insurers, so that I can then be consultative with my insurer to actually help them choose which insurer is going to protect their business, their risk in the right way. That's ultimately that's what they're trying to do in a given day. And there's actually all these impediments to bringing that to life, right? Well, I got to gather the information from the insurer. I got to key that into a system. I got to email 10 different insurers and hope that they all get back to me so that I can ultimately pull them all together, do that hero work. And so I think about this idea of hero work in two categories. One, use AI to take all the mundane things off their plate altogether, right? So why in my example is someone keying in all this information to go get a bunch of quotes? You know what they should do? They should, let's say they got the deck page or the policy, they should ingest all that into something like Cytora. Cytora should read and extract the information that's necessary on behalf of the carrier, send it to the carrier, get a quote in real time, but like take the manual data entry out of the way, right? Like, so there's AI can remove these things that distract the person from doing what they're really there to do. In this example, get the quotes, evaluate them, be consultative, so on and so forth. There's then, I think, a second category of that hero work where if I think the AI is built out enough across the workflow, it's actually taking a lot of the hard work of even the evaluation and the thinking and making that easier, right? So once those quotes are received, for example, I've already taken away the mundane work, I've already taken away the data entry. Well, now you got to read all 10 of them. You got to say which one is A is slightly different than B. What are the trade-offs in that? Well, AI can help with all of that as well. It can do the reasoning. It can give you a shortcut to here's actually the major differences in the quotes that came back and help the hero in this example evaluate it, understand it, get up to speed more quickly, go have a great conversation with the insured. And by the way, then move on to the next one faster, because every account manager or CSR I've ever met in this example has got a pile of renewals that they want to give that same degree of attention to. So again, how does AI help with the hero work? Take the mundane stuff off their plate and actually over time help with the reasoning, the comparison, so that they can ultimately be that consultative advisor even better than they are today. There's lots of examples like that, but that CSR account manager one, I think, is hopefully helpful for everybody.
Definitely. I mean, when I think about these type of mental models, I often go back to my management consulting days when we were doing like this operational efficiency improvement engagements for clients, and you would use this like lean framework. At the end,
Yeah.
like obviously kind of Toyota type of frameworks. And at the end, it's all about how do you remove waste and how do you maximize the amount of time like individuals are kind of deploying in value-added activities, right? And I think many other industries like manufacturing got this right probably 50, 75 years ago, right? Whereas I think in the insurance, just given the nature of the work, which is data, it's much more intangible. It's required a different type of technologies like AI to really make that transition.
Yeah, I agree.
So one of the things we hear or we've heard in the last few weeks, obviously from clients and others in the industry is, okay, well, what's going to happen with Cytora now being part of Applied? I thought it'd be fantastic just to hear from you directly. What are you planning on doing with Cytora?
Yeah. Look, first and foremost, I'd say our job, my job, is throw, fuel on the fire, so to speak, with Cytora. You guys are doing amazing. You've got a ton of traction. One of the things that was really compelling as we got to know you and the business was just how much traction, how much value you are adding to some of the world's largest, most successful insurers, MGAs, brokers. And so the way we're going to operate Cytora is, I mentioned, we've got these different business units, these divisions. And so we're thinking about Cytora as it's a division of Applied. And we're going to make sure that the resources that you probably always wanted as a startup, you're now going to have that in spades, right? So together we've talked to some of Cytora's largest customers in the US and Europe, and I hear great things when we have those conversations, but I also hear, hey, we'd love more capacity to roll Cytora out to, to a new geography. I'd, love more roadmap capacity so that, Sam Lewis, the genius product management lead, and Aeneas, the genius CTO can bring me these 2 or 3 things we're talking about that much faster. So I think what you appreciate, Juan, and I hope all the listeners appreciate, is first and foremost, we're going to give you guys the resources to just go faster on the agenda that you already have, because it's so incredibly powerful. It's adding so much value to the industry. So I think that's point number 1. I think point number 2 is there are amazing better together opportunities. First and foremost, the reason we originally got excited about Cytora was, and we've talked a bit about it in pieces, maybe it's worth spending a little more time, but we have this idea for how you can reimagine how submissions between agencies and carriers actually take place. And through the Cytora platform, using AI to ingest information, to triage, to extract, combining that with our agency management system assets, together, we can completely reshape how commercial line submissions and probably broader, personal line, employee benefits submissions and underwriting take place over time. And so that's going to be a huge priority of our teams working together. And on top of that, Cytora is such an amazing general purpose platform, general purpose AI platform, that we can use it for all sorts of other use cases. I'll give you an example. In Epic, there's lots of information, again, that gets keyed in, right? I have to key in, information about an employee benefits policy. Well, you know what we can do? We can use Cytora to ingest those employee benefits plans or statements of benefits coverage, extract all the necessary information, ingest it in Epic. Let me tell you another use case. I'm not even sure you've heard about one yet. We've got a big applied pay business, a business that we help agencies, collect money from their insurers. A piece of that is, how do you help them make decisions around should they offer premium finance, to that insurer as well? But one of the problems in getting a premium finance quote is, again, I got to get information from a carrier quote. I got to key it all in. It's an extra step. You know what Cytora can do? It can ingest that quote. It can extract the 12 data points that a premium finance company needs, and it can automate that premium finance quoting. So again, we're going to power you guys to keep doing what you're doing and keep driving success. But there's all these better together scenarios that we're incredibly excited about as well. And I know our product teams and engineering teams are working on them already.
Yeah, and perhaps to bring to life one of those better together, let's call it workflows that we've discussed, right? We know it's quite inefficient and painful for agents and in underwriters when the broker sends a submission to the underwriter, the information is incomplete, then you have kind of the underwriter has to go back to the broker. Can you add these more details? It's just quite a manual back and forth problem, right? So that's one of the things we're thinking is, can you just do that on almost an agentic basis where like the platforms just talk to each other, figure out what data is required?
I totally agree. I mean, this is, if there's a bigger pain point in insurance than commercial line submissions, I'd love to hear more about it. Because everyone I talk to about commercial line submissions, they say things like, hey, I want more straight through processing. I want to be able to get to more business, right? I want to inform everyone in the ecosystem what my appetite really looks like and make those decisions quickly. But the reality is the exact opposite, right? It takes weeks often for a commercial line submission to get all the quotes, pulled together. It takes hours to enter in all this information. I hear stories of something like 30 to 50% of in-appetite submissions that a carrier receives often never get touched. Forget quoted, like don't even get touched. And so I think exactly as you described, carriers need to be able to ingest all those submissions, even when they're unstructured, when it's an email, when it's a PDF, when it's a picture. They need a way to use AI to ingest all that information. Cytora does that, right? They then need to be able to compare that information they've ingested and extracted to what is the information they really care about? What is their appetite? What are the triage rules around how to treat that risk. Again, that's another thing that exists in the Cytora platform today. Now we want to take it to the next level. Well, let's say that submission comes in and in the Cytora platform, the carrier has listed the 50 data points they want to underwrite the risk, and 5 of them are missing, right? I'm sure most of our agencies out there are like, oh yeah, I'm always submitting a complete application. We all know they're always incomplete, right? So the carrier says, here are the 10 fields that I'm missing. Well, today, email, back and forth. What should happen and will happen together is Cytora is going to say, hey, these 10 questions are missing. I'm going to automatically ping the agency and tell them what's missing. And how is the agency going to receive that information? Well, they can probably receive it in their email as a channel of communication. They also can receive it directly in the management system, have it show up in Epic, in EasyLinks, where they live and work every day. We can unify with Cytora and Applied all these different submissions so that we can see the 10 emails that are threaded together or the 10 documents that are threaded together. We can make that communication back and forth, agentic wherever possible. And that is going to take weeks and weeks out of the submission process. It's going to make it dramatically more efficient. It's going to result a better experience for the insureds because they're going to get quotes faster. It's going to create growth opportunities for carriers that say, I'm going to embrace that and I want to make sure I get my broker partner that quote faster than everybody else. And then a layer on top of that, think about the data set we're going to create in that process, Juan, right? Like how many insurers tell you, I would love to know how many submissions I receive from not Graham's agency. I mean, that would be nice, but how many do I get from Graham versus Juan versus Sally? Like at a producer or account manager level, we're going to be able, by unifying all these submissions, by creating this agentic communication back and forth, simplify the process as I described, take friction and cost out, but then provide a degree of intelligence around how agencies and carriers are truly working together so they can become better partners, they can optimize that relationship.
So I'm sure by now, like all of our listeners are thinking, okay, how do I learn more? How do I sign up to this exhibition? So what should they do? Should they get in touch with us? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think they should get in touch with you guys. I think if you're a carrier out there, I think that get in touch with someone at Cytora, get in touch with your existing carrier contacts at Applied. So in North America, if you're in Canada, you're going to call your Applied sales rep and they're going to help you figure all this out. If you're in the US and you're on the carrier side, and you don't know anyone at Cytora, we're gonna help get the Cytora name out there even bigger and bolder than maybe it was in the past one. But call your Ivans sales rep, right? Or your Ivans account manager. The Ivans team, the Cytora team, they're working incredibly closely together to make sure that they can educate our carrier partners on the opportunity that's in front of them to better understand that strategy. And the product offering that exists today is going to evolve very quickly here. And then on the broker side, I imagine you've already got someone from Applied hopefully calling you, or, again, 6 out of 10 of you are already working with us. Get in touch with those folks, right? Get in touch with your account manager, get in touch with your account executive. Reach out to Juan or me if you have to as well. Or hey, come to AppliedNet. I think, Juan, you're joining us at AppliedNet next week. For those that don't know, AppliedNet is our annual user conference. I think there's still some time to register. We're going to have 4,500 of our best friends together in Vegas next week, talking through our strategy, talking through our products. It's an amazing event.
We will see if we can we can do a bit of back to the future type of thing, because we are recording this like literally 3 days before like that. So we'll see if this gets released right before AppliedNet or otherwise, but I'm sure everybody...
Well, if we miss you at AppliedNet, those other channels work, and hey, we'll get you to AppliedNet next year. It's a great event. It's a great party as well.
Exactly. Well, Graham, I cannot be more excited about this vision that we've built together. I think it's such a brilliant, impactful marriage, Applied and Cytora. I'm just looking forward to everything we can do together.
That's great to hear. Well, as you know, I feel the same way. This marriage was clearly, we thought there was some product strategy that made a lot of sense. I think it was also, as we talked a bit about, like a real shared set of values on how do we together become the fabric of the most important insurance workflows. And I think, a bunch of people that like each other, it seems like. And so I think we're going to have a lot of fun as we go do it, Juan.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Juan, for having me. I appreciate it.